Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdicus David. Today I am joined by Agis. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm perfectly fine. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It's an absolute honor.
Well, thanks for being on. Agis is from RPG Stories, which there are links down in the description to check out. But before we go any further, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you before we get in here?
All right. So my name is Agis. I'm the director of a new company called Brave Alice, and our first project is RPG Stories. Um, free and RPG Stories is a 3D virtual tabletop that contains a massive world builder where you can build any possible indoor or outdoor environment and then gather your players and play online your favorite RPG game, tabletop RPG game. So this is who I am. My background is from the video game industry. I used to work as a producer and then as a senior producer in several companies. And I was, I don't know, brave enough to quit my day job and start this company because my dream always was to do something around tabletop RPGs. So here I am. And again, thank you for having me. And I want to mention because I can see some of my friends in the chat. Do, do subscribe to Netherkey channel because subscribing is really important. It's just a button for you guys. So please hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell over there to help the guys because they are doing an amazing job.
Ah, thank you so much. So, what
You're
made you
perfectly welcome.
decide to create a virtual tabletop? Like right now on the internet, I feel like you can't throw a stone without hitting one. Um, what inspired you?
That's a really funny story because you just said that you can find lots of them. So I was using VTTs to play online, especially when COVID hit. So we all started playing and using several programs like, Roll20, for example, or anything. So I thought to myself at one point, what if I create a 3D virtual tabletop when you're not using 2D images, but you can use 3D props and the players can move around the cameras and roll the dice in the 3D scene. And I literally thought that I was the only one in this world that had that idea.
Yeah.
So I went to my wife's room like crazy. I have this crazy idea. And I called my best friend Risa, and she's working as a producer in my company now, and we are doing this project together. We were super excited. So we started doing the first thing you need to do when you start a project, and that's research. So we realized that not at all we are the only one doing it. So
Yeah.
it was a huge disappointment. I was literally crying here in this chair, saying that, oh my God, this is a complete distraction. I mean, I lost and I'm not going to do it. So then I was encouraged that having a competition out there is a really good thing. And we decided to move on, and we decided to see what basically is missing from the other VTTs and try to implement that. So that's when we took the decision to be the first 3D virtual tabletop that will support all eras of RPGs, not only D&D like fantasy medieval. And that's why we are providing equally models for modern horror, modern era, and sci-fi era. That's the first thing. And then we kind of understood that there are no rule sets in the 3D VDTs, not 2D. So that's another thing and that's why we're going on Kickstarter. And the other thing is that we couldn't find anyone with like kind of more realistic models that look like more video games, that they're not using minis, but actual 3D models walking. To be 100% honest, we went to our competition channels, read every single comment, see what's the problem with these competitors, what people keep asking they don't get, and we provided these things. So basically one of the things that we are proud of is that we are launching our Kickstarter campaign with almost a final product. I mean, everything is almost done. So we are not going to Kickstarter asking for a crazy amount of money to start the project. If anyone sees the gameplay video we have right now, the world builder is basically ready. All of our VTT features are ready. We just want to spend a little more time to complete the whole thing. So that's my answer. This is how it happened.
So, what is the biggest challenge with creating a VTT, and especially when going from 2D, what we're all used to, and trying to implement the third dimension?
I must say, if the answer is the answer you are seeking is a tech answer, the most tricky thing in this situation always is networking. I was telling you about it in our sound check.
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand is that when it comes to video games, because we are not a video game, but the technique and the pipeline is exactly the same. Before you implement your networking system, you have to know all your features. So one mistake smaller studios used to do in the past, and we have done it so many times before we learn, is that you start implementing the multiplayer because you want to see how this works, but then you add a new feature like the weather system, and you realize that networking is not there, so the other player cannot see the weather. And you have to go back to your code and fix that. And this is how lag exists everywhere. And this is how networking is slow in several products out there. And I'm not talking about VTTs, I'm talking about any video game. So it was a huge challenge for us for the campaign to wait and not implement a multiplayer version yet, which it will be really helpful because we will be able to give it to all the YouTubers and let them play D&D or any other game in our own software. And it will really explode the campaign. But we decided it's better to be professionals, wait and implement it after the Kickstarter campaign, because we will truly know our fans, we will truly know our final features, because we really care on delivering something amazing. That was a huge challenge. We decided to wait. We are proud about it. Let's hope that we are not going to pay it in the Kickstarter campaign. The other thing is the 3D modeling, because it costs a lot and it's really hard to find a way to give the models that people really need, because every game master has his own imagination. And only if you check my room behind me or your room, you will see millions of props. So we were really lucky because our art director used to work in a really big company, which I can't say, but he came up with a pipeline that it's unique and help us implementing models really fast. And not only that, but we kind of allow players to change the textures a little bit, customize the objects. And that is why we already have more than 1K models in the system. And after the Kickstarter campaign, we're going to add even more, of course. That was challenging. We spent more than 3 months in research for that. And that cost us like a lot of money. But now we have the ability to do it really fast. And we know that it will help our battle against the competition. And finally, if we ignore anything that has to do with technical issues, the hardest thing is to convince the community that you are a serious company, even though you are an indie company that really wants to deliver something that will belong to the community. That's the hardest part.
So when we were talking beforehand, you kind of made a really big deal of the fact that everybody you're working with has come from the video game industry and world. Why is that important? We play tabletop games here.
Well, yeah. So it's important because I am the owner and I'm a producer. I don't write code. I don't write art. It's really important to have people in your team that know exactly how to write the code, because this is not a video game, but the pipeline is for a video game. You have a code, you have to display things on screen, you have to make the models move, You have to give lots of authorization options to the dungeon master, to the players, how they will control the models, how the dice will be rolled, and how to connect everything with the multiplayer. Our product will be on Steam. So pretty much it's like in the video game industry. So we are proud that the team is not like 3 or 4 developers that decided to try and do this thing without experience. And again, because I really like to be honest, I was so lucky because when we started gathering the team, the best of the best that I knew from my previous jobs that I was working as a manager were free. So I managed to get in my team everyone that I really, really wanted to have. And nobody said no. So it was in the beginning where we were gathering around the team and we were making our research, I was feeling that this is going to be an amazing journey because the team is perfect. And it did. I mean, everyone in the team is trying their best. And although the initial idea was to create like a small demo just to showcase it, the guys put the best of their ability in it. And we ended up like 20 days before the Kickstarter campaign with almost a final product. So it gave us the opportunity to go to the Kickstarter campaign without asking like a lot of money. So yeah, that's the trick. And also developers with really good experience, they know what problems you will meet moving ahead. So when me or my producer are coming with a crazy idea, they always get that idea and improve it because they know how to do things, how to implement things, how to get things from the design team and turn it to code with a better UX, for example, or with less laggy code. So yeah, we are really lucky and we owe everything to our team. I mean, RPG Stories is not me, it's the team, the guys that they're working.
So also kind of like a casual observer, we're just getting to a place in TTRPGs where it's less of amateurs trying to do a thing than professionals, right? Like for the longest time, and honestly, like one of the things I hate the most about our industry is pay what you want, because it's like a race to the bottom and no one ever wins that race. And sometimes for a long time I feel like there's been this like upheld view that this is a hobby and people shouldn't make money doing it. But the problem with that, it drags down the talent pool, and most of the talent that we've had has fled to video games, amongst other places, right? And now we're starting to see some of that come back, as it becomes a little bit more lucrative and people can actually make a living in this industry. So,
Yes.
Because of that, I feel like because video games hasn't really had a amateur uh aspect to it where the RPGs do, that everyone comes from the professional world. So you get a better talent of people to draw from, and you guys like know how to make projects work. And actually, even in the RPG spaces, people that tend to be like project managers from other industries and things like that tend to do better in this space than someone that's just really creative and just really loves RPGs, because they don't have the other components that are really important.
Yeah. Well, listen, I will give like a vague and long answer to this. So first of all, if you check a little bit the video game industry, you will see that the AAA, as we call them, companies, they don't even hesitate to throw to call final product their product, throw it out there truly buggy with lots and lots of problems. They don't even care. They get a lot of money from that. You can see all the hate online in the internet, but the sales are going up. And for instance, now Diablo Immortal came out in the mobile game. It has the worst ratings in history, and they are making millions every day at the same time. So yes, people do complain, but they also do play and they do pay. So if an indie company or a new company like us dares to give something buggy out there, it will be destroyed. So the first thing is that we want people, not only for our project, for any project out there, to understand that we are trying our best. And if they check the AAA companies, they sometimes they don't. So first of all, give us a chance. Second, and not only to us, I mean, to every studio that is trying to do a video game or a virtual tabletop out there, and there are a lot, and we know all about them, and with a few of them, we managed to have like a communication, really good communication. So the other part about the professional DMs out there, I understand that making money out of role-playing games, TTRPGs, at first was like a huge discussion, and even today people hate the idea, but it's a little bit controversial because, you know, if you go to the community, to our comments, to the comments we get to our ads and to our videos, you will see that the players are asking for a lot of things. So they come, they see our ad, they see the world builder, they see a final product, and they ask, will I be able to do this in an auto way? So that means that even if we give that, the dungeon master will have to prepare a lot of things in order for the player to come and use these automations. So overall, the players demand from the game masters to have like crazy images, use 3D VDTs, use 2D VDTs, prepare the whole story with using like several third-party programs, write the quest, spend more than 6 hours to prepare everything. But then they complain that they want to get paid, which is kind of weird. I understand what is happening. I've never worked as a professional DM because it's not my English is not my first language, so I don't feel confident doing it. But I think that there are out there people that they're doing pretty well and they deserve the money they ask. Plus, basically, this is how society and society and the market works. There are a few DMs, there are lots of players. So in order to find a DM, maybe you need to pay nowadays. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong about it. And we don't understand. And personally, I don't understand why people are so problematic when it comes to money. They hate the idea that someone is going to make money out of a hobby. And you can see the same thing in the music industry, in the theater industry, in the YouTube industry. It's like, why? But they don't have a problem paying McDonald's for a burger, which is weird because it's not a good burger.
we need to make it, we need to normalize hating people having soul-sucking jobs that destroy them, you know, slowly over time, you know, instead of doing something they actually enjoy doing and making a living.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. And think it of that way. Back in the 80s and the 90s, I grew up in the 90s. It was a stigma to be a role-playing gamer. I mean, my mother thought that I was becoming like, I don't know, I was worshiping Satan or something back in the 90s. Because in Greece, I'm Greek, we had like a huge case with a group of Satan worshippers. And obviously it was connected, like in the States, with D&D and with these games. And now everybody loves D&D and the community is growing, the market is growing. It's only a good thing. So we kind of, all of us, kind of gatekeeping sometimes, and it's not good. And we are trying to, even in our comments, because we get people that come to our videos and they promote the competition. They go like, hey, Tailspire is better. And we go and answer, maybe yes, support Tailspire, because yes, you need to support these things, not only us. And for people going in a Kickstarter campaign and giving like $10 is like not having a picture for that night. And they can really help the community grow and make the hobby even better. So we are into supporting everyone. And not only the guys that they're creating 3D VDTs, but guys like you that have like amazing channels and they produce amazing content, because we are having fun with these things. And it's good to pay for things that amuse you. So one example I always give is that when Queen used to perform in Wembley in front of 90,000 people, the production of that concert was like more than £1 million. It needs money for art and for culture to grow. So it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
I find it oddly comforting to know that Greece had their own satanic panic.
Yeah, we did. It's a lot. I wish you could find videos with subtitles out there because
Yeah.
it was a crazy story involving three people that they were doing crazy stuff. And they, after like 20 years, they now, all of them are free out of jail. They managed to go free now after like serving 20 or 25 years. But it was massive. I remember being scared as a kid
Yeah.
a lot.
I guess we had like, there was like kids that went missing. They might even been like college age. And they actually went to like TSR, like the police went to TSR at Gary Gygax back in the day to like try and figure out what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So
My parents, sorry, go.
I was just gonna ask, when you play RPGs, do you play in English or do you play in Greek?
In Greek, because all my friends are Greeks. I have tried playing in English because my cousin, he's Greek, but he lives in the UK for many, many years. So sometimes if we play with his friends, it's in English, but we play in Greek. But something that people doesn't know about the Greek community is that for a cultural reason that I cannot really explain, we kind of hate when fantasy pop culture is translated in Greek. So it's really hard to find a Greek guy that will read Lord of the Rings in Greek or will buy the player's handbook in Greek. So even when we promote, we use Greek words, but all the terms are in English. So we go like Greek, a 3D virtual tabletop, Greek for Dungeons and Dragons, Greek. We don't like to translate fantasy pop cultural things. Okay. We hate it, and it sounds so funny using Greek for these things. So most Greek people are playing half Greek, half English. So we will say armor class in English, not in Greek. We will say fireball. We're not going to translate the terms.
I ask because I've talked to quite a few international people, and I find it interesting that there's a ton of them that when they play RPGs, all their gaming's in English because they said it feels weird to use their language and say, and kind of like what you're saying, right? Like but instead of just taking like the D&D terms and using the English for that, they just use they just use English for everything because they said, I guess I've heard the word a couple times, cringe, for for playing in their own language.
Let me give you an example. So if you listen to the blues, like New Orleans and 50s kind of blues music, you will get this oh baby, oh baby, oh baby again and again, or oh yeah, oh yeah. If you take this and translate it in Greek, it's ridiculous. I mean, it will be the most trashy thing in the world. But in English makes sense. So it's kind of that way. So translating all these Lord of the Rings, Lovecraftian, Stephen King things in Greek, it sounds lame. that's a word. So
when are you usually a DM or are you usually a player when it comes to gaming?
Unfortunately, I'm a forever DM because my friends, and I know that they are watching right now, are lazy enough to become dungeon masters. And every time we convince someone to become a dungeon master, we play one session and then they go, oh, come on, Agis, are you going to write a quest or something like that? So I'm a dungeon master.
So they're going off a little bit in the chat about Greek. It needs to be memed at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Let me check. What did you decide, like, when you start this project, that you felt as not as a designer but as a gamer, like absolutely had to be in this thing in order to be worth it for you?
Sorry, what was the question? Because I live near Heathrow and an airplane just passed by.
No worries. So as a gamer, more so than a designer, what was like the must-haves to put into RPG stories for you?
All right, so that's my personal favorite thing. It's the ability to do the quest writing within the software. So that was exactly what I was looking for, like a 3D virtual tabletop where I can pinpoint to every little objects and type every detail I need as a DM. So we have this quest writing tool, and what made us like explode and really helped us is that everything you create in RPG stories, all the maps, all the quests that you are writing, you can export them in a single file, like a PSD, let's say. And then anyone that uses RPG stories, he can take that file and open it. And we are giving all these exports commercial free. So basically, RPG stories is not only a world builder that you can export and play elsewhere. It's a VTT where you can play with your friends, but at the same time is a tool where you can create a story and with all the footage you want, the scenes you want, the quest writing you want, the NPCs you want, and sell it or share it for free. So that was my initial idea, like we need to do this. We need this to be also a quest writing tool, also commercial free. And that cost us a lot of money to do, not because saying commercial free is not expensive. You just go ahead and say it's commercial free.
Yeah.
But it took us into the position to start thinking, all right, so they're going to create things and probably the content creators are going to try and sell these things. So how do you secure their copyrights? How do you secure that the content creator will sell that quest or that map, and then the next guy will go and resell it? So we started implementing features that will secure the copyrights of the content creators, not even our. So we added like watermarks, a code in order for the quest file to open, things like that. But for me, that was like the number one thing, creating this thing with a quest writing tool where you can export everything and somebody else can open it. Or if they don't use RPG stories, then just export the map in 2D, in 3D, in video, export the quest like with nice imagery and then sell it and use it as a quest writing tool. And in our future plans, not in this Kickstarter campaign, but in the future, we want to change a little bit the code and create another software that basically will be like creating a world or campaign tool only for like quest writing, like creating your own world, not to play in it, but create the maps, create all the history of the world, all the NPCs of the world. It's in our plans. So that was my biggest desire, and we managed to do it. It was one of the first things we implemented, actually.
So will there be a marketplace at launch? Is that something you're going to add later?
Yeah, there will be a marketplace, and basically there will be multiple marketplaces. Let me explain that. So we came to an agreement. I cannot say all the details, but we came with the agreement with certain guys from the community. And what is going to happen is that RPG Stories will have a marketplace where we will sell our own quests for RPG Stories, for anyone that wants to buy our quests. We are going to sell models, but not the casual models that the software will have. So you will never see us selling like a table or a pen or a bicycle or an armor, or all the obvious and simple things will be in the software. And if we add them later, the updates will be free. But there is a thing that we want to sell a few special packages if we have the chance. Like, I'll give you an example. So the original version will have a desert terrain, will have desert houses, will have desert monsters, and it will be in the software. But if we go and create a dedicated package with 1,000 models for Dark Sun, with the art style of Dark Sun, this, yes, we might sell this. So if we sell any models, it will be like really special ones. And we will invite several content creators to give their CVs and their quests if they want to sell through our marketplace. Obviously, they can sell in their own place. We don't care. They are free to do it. But if they want to have this extra visibility, if our company is going well, they will be allowed to sell through our marketplace if they want. And we'll also allow the community to create their own marketplaces if they want. And we came to an agreement with some good fellows to create another marketplace that will be like the official communities marketplace that we intend to support. And by supporting, we mean not act as competitors. So we are not gonna try to hit them, we're trying to help them. Because we want RPG stores to be the community's VTT, basically. As we say, we want to sell the software and you guys do whatever we want with it. So that's the whole idea.
With that in mind, I want to run a game. I'm using RPG stories. What do I have to do to run that game for my friends? Like, do they all have to own RPG stories? Are there different versions?
Yeah. All right. So let me explain this. They all need to have installed the RPG stories in the PCs or Mac. But here's what we have done. So we have several versions and we will showcase them all in our Kickstarter campaign. So there is the GM version, which is the full suite. It's the whole thing. You get the world builder, you get the VTT, you get to host a game, to invite friends, matchmaking, multiplayer, the whole thing. There is the player version, where basically you don't have the world builder. You have your own inventory when you can go and create your character, open your character sheet, create several characters, save them, change the stats, and then connect with your DM and play the game, dropping your character in, using the dice, using the VTT. So after this, there will be packages like a GM version with 4 seats or 5 seats or 6 seats for players. And these player seats will belong to the player. So that means this package is for a group of friends, like me and my friends that we are playing role-playing games. I get the GM version, they get the player versions because it's a lot cheaper. They can update anytime they want, but we thought that it's not really cool to sell the whole thing to the players because some of them, like for example, there is this girl here in the comments called Artemis Drosu. She will never play as a dungeon master. So there's no reason for her to go and buy the whole thing. So that's why we have the cheaper players version. And there will be another package that will have the GM version and player seats, like 4 player seats, 5, 6, but these player seats will belong to the dungeon master. So that means that if I have that package, I can give the keys to you guys to play now, then lock them, and the next day give them to someone else, and the next day to someone else. And this package is for pro DMs, basically, that they have clients and they don't want to reach to their clients and tell them, go and buy RPG stories. So we give everything to the DM to host the game. So there are basically these 4 different packages, the GM version, the player version, and then the friends party version and the pro DM version with player seats.
So first of all, Artemis, I believe in you. You can totally GM games.
Of course she can. Of course, she have tried it. She was amazing. She just doesn't want to believe in it.
Yeah. And so, Contes, I take it you know Artemis, and they're in some of your games.
Yeah.
So that being said, is it a subscription based model? Is it you buy the software once and then you own it?
All right. Again, since we like to be honest and transparent, we were thinking of having the one-time thing for the GM version and subscription for the player's version. But after a good research, we realized that almost 85% of the community out there hates subscriptions. So we decided to go with one-off for everything. We will probably put a subscription to the player's version as an option, as a second option, for people who might want to try it for like $1 and see if they like it, and then cancel the subscription and buy the whole thing one time. But it will be one-off because we really don't, well, we do want to become rich. Who doesn't? But that's not the case. We want to have a nice product out there for the community above all else, and then look at our profits. So it will be one-off. That's the official answer.
So I know a lot of people use VTTs just not as a way of playing the game, but also as a way of finding games. Are you guys? How are you guys going to address that?
Like a battle system, you mean?
No, like looking for group. People are looking. People are posting. Oh, I'm
All right.
running a game.
So yeah, let me answer that. We, in this first stage, like for 2022, 2023, we really want to avoid any server multiplayer, because our dream is to deliver like a really steady multiplayer system. So in order for finding groups and things like that, we don't want to do it within the software. We're going to support it in our Discord server and in our forums and in our website, and having several channels for group finding, things like that. After the first year, we want to try it, and we will probably try it. But at the moment, we don't want to host the game in servers and allow people to, randomly find other players, because we want the multiplayer to be 100% steady.
Have you guys considered at all, encapsulating or incorporating supporting pro GMing into it? I know there's systems like Demiplane and Start Playing are two that come to me right off the top of my head that do that.
The answer basically is this. Let me explain. So what we want to do is to see what funds we raised, go to our backers with our email campaign and our Discord, and ask them to vote for several things. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell them, these are our funds, these are the features we want to implement, these are the numbers of models we can implement, and these are several other ideas that we have. And since our budget is this, we can do them in 2022, 2023. And we will let our backers vote for that. Pro GMs, like hiring people or hiring services that they will pro GM in RPG stories, it's in our ideas, but we want everything we do to be decided with the community, with our own community, because they will be playing, they will be using the software. Well, we will also do it, but it's for the community. So we want to be as one with our community with that. Probably yes, because we know how hard it is for people to find dungeon masters. And one of my dreams when we started this thing was like, all right, I'm going to create this, and then I'm going to write my quest, and I'm going to play as a professional DM in it. But now I realize that I don't have the time, and there is absolutely no chance I will have the time to do it. So we are kind of already having interviews with pro DMs, because since RPG Stories is a quest writing tool as well, we can have within the software, as we sell it, pre-made scenarios. So the user will be able to open the software, go to load games, and just load a pre-made campaign made by someone. And the same thing, download it or buy it from somewhere and then open it. So we want to implement in our beta version a few pre-made quests from pro DMs, and we are already discussing with a few of them. I cannot say names, but they are amazing. And as I was telling to one of them yesterday, before starting RPG Stories, I thought that I was the best DM in the world, but I'm not. Not at all. Not even close. There is amazing people out there with amazing ideas. And I've read quests from people, because we interview people, we talk to people. I've seen quests out there that they are literally diamonds.
There are tons of awesome GMs out there for sure.
Yep.
So you said this was all inspired during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Was that because you were playing games virtually? Were you using other virtual tabletops?
Yeah, basically, yes. And also we want to, in our future plan, is to bring RPG stories in the table. And I cannot say a lot of things around that because it's really too soon and we don't want to promise things that we cannot 100% guarantee. But we have a plan on how we can bring up the whole software RPG stories on the table and allow the users to play around the table with RPG stories with no laptops, no tablets. But I cannot say anything else because it's an early.
So there's
idea.
a product that is, it is, I guess it's still in beta, and it was on Kickstarter as well, called Game Board, or Last Game Board, and essentially like you can, it's basically a touch screen that you play games on with other people, but then
Yeah, I've
like
seen it.
you can connect it to virtual tabletops, and then they
Yeah.
have like special bases you connect to the models, and then you can use it on the board itself. But I feel like something like RPG stories, like some of its strengths might be its weakness for things like how other VTTs interact at the table, because you've brought in this element of three-dimensional into it, and the table is already kind of three-dimensional, so bringing something over that's kind of 2D and integrating it with your home game is fairly easy. I feel like you're just gonna have to go to holograms, man.
Yeah, use some Star Wars technology maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty like my best friend in Greece. He is a furniture builder gig,
Yeah.
and we have some ideas for the future, but we will see. It's really too soon. Let's catch the first goal in this Kickstarter campaign first, because it's really important. And I
then
really
we
do
can
hope
work
that,
on holograms.
yeah, and I really do hope that people that are watching this interview live or later on, they will go to our Kickstarter page and hit the notify me button, because these days is the hardest thing to achieve. It's really hard to convince people to do it.
Yeah. Well, what is like a pie in the sky kind of dream that you would like to see happen that you don't know if it's even doable? Do you have any goals like that?
Well, okay, let me tell you
Speaking
this.
as a more of a as a gamer than a designer here.
All right, so the dream for us is to be able to implement that amount of models and automations that basically you will be able to play any role-playing game and create these worlds really easy. So even now that we are starting, everything can be done in an auto way. So the dream is, and if we get enough money from the Kickstarter campaign, this is what we will try to do, is for the DM to go and type, I want a stone dungeon with 7 monsters and 8 rooms, hit enter, poop, and that will appear. That's the AI we want to reach. That's the goal. The problem is that you cannot really calculate the amount of money you need for that. Maybe this is something you can achieve like in 3 months, paying, I don't know, 40K. Maybe it will need like 2 years. So you cannot actually go and say, I'm going to do this, but that's the dream. And that's what we are experimenting at this point. So we figured out how to do dungeon generators in 3D. Now we want to find a way in the future for the DM to go and like give a description of what he needs, and then just need to move a few things around. That's the ideal. And if you make the same question about the Kickstarter campaign, the dream is work for RPG stories for the rest of my life. So making enough money to be able to walk around RPG stories for the rest of my life. That's the dream. Me and the whole team.
I believe it's definitely doable. I've seen quite a few companies that have kind of sprung up around the gaming industry that have done pretty well.
We wish, and we think we deserve it, because we really want to have the community above all else. We want to listen to their advice. We want to implement the things they like. And one other thing that we are really trying to do, and we already started doing it, is reaching out to content creators that are not really famous and they have their own role-playing games and their own systems, and slowly trying to implement these things as well, because there are amazing games out there. We have big dreams, and we only hope, this is like a complaint we have a little bit. We've seen companies making millions or thousands of dollars in their Kickstarter campaigns, and then they delivered exactly what they promised. So well done, well done. But what I keep saying to my team is like, if we make like 4 million, we can do this, we can do these things that we never promised, because we want to do them. We want to make this the best thing ever. So I don't know what will happen in my stupid brain if I make like 4 millions. Maybe I'll go crazy and go to the back to Greece and live in an island. But the dream is to make this an amazing experience, bring it to the table, bring it to the world. We want to implement so many things. So yeah, we want people to give us a chance.
How many TTRPG gamers do you have on your team?
All of them except one dev that he's begging to play, and well, he have watched all the Critical Role series on YouTube. He knows exactly what it is, how, and he begs like, come on, let's play, but we don't have the time to play with him right now.
I know, it's the Will meme from Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, but I promised him that after the Kickstarter campaign, we're definitely going to do it.
Just make it a stretch goal.
Yeah, I'll make it play with my dev.
For $1 million, we'll let our dev finally play D&D.
Yeah, finally play D&D.
So you mentioned being the forever DM. Just Dungeons and Dragons? Do you play other RPGs as well?
Well, I started with Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I still play 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I'm an old school gamer. And one of my dreams is implementing all the 2nd edition and the 1st edition into RPG stories. I know that the audience is not that big, so we won't be in our first.
Those 5 people out there are going to be really happy.
Yeah.
No, there's plenty of people that play all the editions. Honestly, so Stefan Pagorni from Dwarven Forge, he still only runs like his version of 1E. And it's funny because when I did D&D in a castle a couple years back, I was in a second round of the castles just as a night GM, and I found myself without a table to run for. And so I went to the bar to get a drink, and then I walked by them, and he's got this like huge castle set up with a dungeon underneath of it. And they're like, hey, we need more players. You want to play? So I grabbed a pre-gen and jumped into that game. And it was so much fun. I hadn't played, 1E in decades. And the best moment from that game was at the very end. I think one of the players had like a wand of lightning bolts. And they cast it. It went through like all the monsters, hit the wall, and then came back and went through all the monsters again. And then it went through half the party as well, and like stopped just before them. So they like killed all the monsters and like half the party in one shot.
But that's exactly the thing with the older editions. They were dangerous and you could die easily. And that's fun for me. So I started with 2nd edition. Then a good friend introduced me to the Call of Cthulhu game. Yeah. We say Call of Cthulhu, you say Cthulhu, I guess. And I wrote a weird campaign, which is the best thing I've ever wrote, in my opinion. I would really like to make it a comic book at some day. It was a really strange story. And we spent 3 years playing only Call of Cthulhu. And then I started playing Vampire the Masquerade, which I really enjoyed. But it's, Vampire the Masquerade has several issues, in my opinion, as a game, because, the players have all these amazing powers, but basically they cannot use them because their enemies are always other vampires. So it gets tricky to come up with a quest that will have some action as well. But I really did enjoy Vampire the Masquerade. My producer is crazy about Vampire the Masquerade. She has a tattoo of all her character in her back. and she begs to play. I'm kind of bored these days.
Yeah.
Overall, I've also tried Pendragon,
Okay.
and I've also tried a little bit of Star Wars. At the end of the day, I realized after so many years that nothing compares to a good Dungeons and Dragons quest. I
Yeah.
like all the games, but D&D is still the king. I've also come up with my own RPG game at some point, where basically it was a medieval, realistic world where if somebody hit you with an arrow, you would die, and no spells, no magic, no. It was like a Call of Cthulhu in the medieval era. But yeah, a good D&D, you need this healing potion, this ring of fly, this. I need this. So it's all about D&D at the end of the day.
I got quite a few friends that are into Vampire the Masquerade. It's just not my thing. It just reminds me of like '90s edgelords. So.
Yeah, and we've seen that this community is really hard to reach when it comes to 3D VTTs because they've never really used them. And we appeared out of nowhere saying that, hey, we support modern era, we support the D10 systems, and we see them hesitating and feeling like they don't need this. Not all of them, but it's kind of hard to reach them. And on the other hand, we're really happy with what we have created. So we hope that they're going to use it at the end of the day and see that it can change their game. Let's see.
How do you handle things like flying in RPG stories, right? Because now you kind of opened up the can of worms by going from flat 2D to 3D. Right now, I expect like if there's a Manicore, I expect it to be able to be in the air.
All right. So first of all, I want to say something because this is who I am. As we speak, my team is trashing on Discord, and they're making fun of me, and they try to make me laugh. Yeah. And I just got a message that, oh, he's not seeing these messages. So I want to inform them that I do see these messages. All right. So,
you're like
but I'm not
laughing. Saran, you see everything.
Yeah, I have a poker face. I'm not laughing. So flying and things like that. It's funny that you mention it because we just implemented the dragon, and since we're using 3D models, we have like an animator controller. So all the models have animations and rigging, things like that. So for some reason, in the first build that we got, the dragon, when you activate the dragon, it goes up, spread his wing, and falls to the ground dying. For some reason, it didn't work. Yeah. So we had a bug. So yeah, flying. So there are two different ways there. The first one is the animation controller that we have. If a monster or something has wings, the animation will be flying, and this is or floating if it needs. Now, for spell effects and things like that, if we don't get our first stretch goal, and if we don't implement like the rule sets that we dream of, the DM will have the authority to take the model, raise it into the air, and then when the player moves it, it will be in the air. If we do rule sets, it will be automatically. The player will say, I'm casting fly, let's say. He will click the button and the model will rise and the animation will play instantly. So kind of depends on the Kickstarter campaign, because basically, as I explained earlier, we are going for a low first goal because we already have almost what we need, but all the stretch goals will be crazy stuff like this. Stretch goals, spells, effects, and let's hope that the community will give us the strength to do it, because we know that there are not basically rule sets and events and automation in 3D VTTs right now, and we really want to be the first one to implement them. And we have some crazy, our devs have some crazy ideas.
What made me think about it was, talking about Vampire the Masquerade, and how you mentioned like there's not a lot of those players that are using VTTs, and that would make sense because it's not a tactical game. It's the maps aren't that important. And then that got me thinking. I was like, wait a minute, what about supers games? because Super's games, while they can be tactical, they depending on the rule system, they can quickly make a map pointless. Like I've played in Super games where you can make a character that's a speedster and they can literally run around the globe. So at that point,
Yeah,
what does a grid mean to them?
exactly this. Well, in my opinion, I'll say this. When I used to play Call of Cthulhu, the most important thing was the atmosphere. So you had to describe something really well,
Yeah.
scare the players, use soundtrack. So we have a feature in RPG Stories where basically you can open the library and choose several environmental lights. Either use like a preset that we provide or make your own. So we implemented this black and white noir kind of style, especially for Call of Cthulhu. And the things I managed to create in these were really amazing. And I was thinking that if I only had this tool back then, because as a dungeon master, especially when it comes to modern games, I used to create a lot of content because it's a today's world on Earth. So for example, if my players were going in a room where there was a TV playing, I really wanted to be able to show what's on the TV and have it in the background. So at some point, I got my mother to pretend that she's a news presenter, and I filmed that. So when we were playing, I had this playing in the background in case they notice what my mother, the presenter, was saying and say, hey, I want to check this. So doing these things in a modern game is really cool because otherwise you have to mention it as the DM. And if you mention it, then the players are going to check it because you said it. So since you described it, it must be important. But that's why I believe that 3D virtual tabletops can really help modern games because you can throw hints in the scene, cravings in the wall, like a TV playing a specific thing, and let the players decide if they're going to check it without really describing it.
Wait a minute, you're gonna. There's the ability to have a TV playing a specific thing.
Kind of. We have implemented a video player basically where the DM can click and play a video within the thing. So if the player says, "I'm checking what's on TV," he can click the TV and pop-ups and plays. Okay. So we are doing things like that. We don't know how far we're going to go. We are waiting to see the interest of the modern gamers and the sci-fi players. For D&D, engravings in walls and things like that. First of all, it's easier to do, and we get that question a lot. Like, will I be able to write things on the wall? I want to write things on the wall. Everybody wants to write things on the wall. So yeah, we never thought of it, but now we're doing it because people keep asking for it. So they want to like put the wall and then have a tool where they can write something on the wall, but not like with letters to be engraved in the actual texture of the wall. So we are figuring out this now.
Oh, that's really cool. So for like a sci-fi game, will you be able to do like ship to ship combat where like the scene is space and maybe the ship that the adventuring party's in, and then like the other celestial bodies or ships out there?
All right. Yeah, let me explain this because we get this question about sci-fi a lot. And it's not only sci-fi, the same thing applies for D&D in my opinion. So you have two options. You can, what we are trying to do, and if you check the videos, you will understand it. So you have like a wall builder tool where you can build a dungeon, right? But we also have houses, or we have like a long ship or a pirate ship. So everything that we create that is a hall, like a house, if you move your camera, you get in the house. So these are like pre-made rooms. So that means that you can make the ground and the whole thing like space and put two spaceships there. That there are 3D models that if you zoom in, you can also get in the ship and out of the ship. So yeah, we're gonna do this. The only thing with sci-fi, because I want to be transparent, that we are not touching and we go really slowly and carefully is Star Wars. we are watching Disney from a distance.
Yeah,
We want to see how it goes. We want to contact them because we've seen several things with Disney. They are pretty ruthless at some point. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I know Star Wars. I can tell you every dialogue of every movie without making one mistake.
There's tons of other sci-fi games as well. Like Starfinder is pretty popular. Cipher System is basically set up to play any genre. There's other generic games that you can play.
Blade Runner, Alien, they're amazing.
Yeah.
But we are pretty scared with Star Wars, and we don't want to. We will support Star Wars eventually, and we already have like a Stormtrooper and things like that. But the problem is, I don't want to go and create, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I don't want to create like replicas of Star Wars things that they kind of look like the real thing, but they're not, and they have weird names and not the real names. I kind of hate this with Star Wars because Star Wars is my whole life. So we want to see the fans, we want to see our strength, and then contact them and say, hey, we exist. Do you mind if, and see where it goes. If we hit the wall there, then we will go with fake Star Wars models and rename them like White Trooper and not Stormtrooper, and go that way.
Yeah. Quick reminder, folks, links are in the description so you can follow along with RPG stories and check things out. So, and also to get notified when the Kickstarter launches and get involved with that, for sure.
That's the call to action. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So you guys are going to actually try and go up against the mouse, huh? And get the mouse on board. Have you? Is that the Star Wars system you played? Because I know there's a bunch of them at this point.
Well, I played Star Wars. Maybe I remember it was a D100 system.
Okay.
When I played, so I don't remember the edition, but it was like before Disney got the whole franchise for sure, and it was in the period where Episode 3 was in the movies, and my character died in the first session, by the way.
Happens. Yeah, took a lightsaber to the knee. Yeah, so I've played the most recent version from Fantasy Flight Games, which is the custom dice, and then I know there's the D6 system, there's a D20 system. So there's been tons of versions of it out there for sure. Have any of the RPG companies reached out to you guys to be like, hey, we were interested in this platform, we want to get our games on here?
I already mentioned that we have contacted several people. We've gotten lots of PDFs with amazing systems out there, and if anyone that listens to us right now is an RPG enthusiast, I suggest you go and check people's games because they have amazing ideas. What we want to do, obviously, and we are kind of sorry about that, but 5th edition will be the first thing we're going to touch. But after that, we hope that we will have enough funds to start implementing more rule sets from other games and make collaborations with people. Another thing that really is interesting us is to make deals with several role-playing games and create their own art style. So not only the rule sets, but their own art style as well, and bring it into the system if they have the audience to support it, things like that. There are also amazing monstrous compendiums out there and quests from people and art style from people that we would like to implement. So I mentioned we are working with Nord Games, for example, and we are discussing with them for several ideas. Another collaborator we have is Not Ones that they create 2D maps, amazing art style. And since you can upload 2D images in RPG stories, we want to suggest their work. So we are trying to collaborate with several content creators out there and bring in things that are not really famous yet, because there are actually people who play these games out there. And our dream is not going like only D&D. That's why we support all eras. So if we don't manage to come with a full agreement with, I don't know, the company that produces Star Wars or Blade Runner, it will be an honor to work with other content creators and bring these games in our system, because we want RPGs to support all kinds of RPGs. That's the dream. So anyone who is willing to collaborate, he can just send us a message and we will read every mail after the Kickstarter campaign, we promise.
So if you got a favorite game out there that isn't represented, go bang down their doors and let them know you want to see it on RPG Stories. Final thoughts before we head on out?
Final thoughts. Well, we really do hope that we will get people's support. We really need it. We want the community to be on our side. We want them to be part of our decisions. So I say, give us a chance, go hit the notify me button, back us when the time comes, because this is our wildest dream, basically. And we are ready to listen to your ideas and make our dream your dream as well. So that's what we want to say. Like, let's do this. We're in this together. And we truly believe that.
If you want a VTT where you can actually watch the TV that's on the screen, RPG
Yeah.
Stories has got you covered. It looks like. I think that's like one of the coolest things.
Yeah, we have plenty of ideas like this. We have plenty of ideas like this one. But yeah. And a funny thing is that we haven't figured out yet how to call this feature. Yeah. So in all our systems and in the code, we call it DM show.
Okay, nice.
And now we are used to it, and we will probably call it that way.
With that, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time, stay nerdy.
Thank you.